A really great afternoon to you all. Entrepreneurs and their solution-orientated work are dedicated to the good of all, and they are problem solvers in areas that covered by the 17 Sustainable Development Goal, the SDGs. Entrepreneurs help create an everyone a change maker world, a world where everyone is driven by a positive idea of how they can contribute to change, and their ideas and solution establish new paradigms and change making, and they help us change by adopting and learning change making skills of cognitive empathy, teamwork, collaborative leadership, and engagement and creative solutions. Now, entrepreneurship has direct impact, a direct positive impact on poverty alleviation, which is SDG number 1, economic development and unemployment reduction, SDG 8, industry innovation and infrastructure, SDG 9, and creating sustainable cities and communities, which is SDG 11. My name is Mariette Rem, and welcome to the Impact BC, where we look at the impact that involves getting results, influence about spreading passion and inspiration. And today we are diving into business beyond borders, rethinking the future of economic development, startups and entrepreneurs in the UAE and beyond. Again, welcome LinkedIn and Facebook. Yeah. We are diving into today, rethinking the future of economic development, startups, entrepreneurs, and beyond. So I would really love to welcome again the participants. We had a short introduction from Dr. Hillary, Principal Partner and Consultant at Leaders Without Borders Center. And I would love to introduce all our participants one by one, and just to break the ice with our customary questions. So first I would like to start with Ahmed, Zaid, BinKhashah al-Shemeili, who is the founder and CEO of Hawa Global, founder and CEO. He's created an entire infrastructure of success that is dedicated to supporting startups, visionaries, and entrepreneurs. He is the initiator and founder of the CBRN Hub, UAE, and the one of its own kind in the Middle East. He is the official representative of the UAE in the European Union Regional Secretariat of Centers of Excellence for the CBRN emergencies. He's also representative to UAE in the International Atomic Energy Agency, initiator and leader of transformational change through artificial intelligence, as well as he sits on several boards as founder and chairman. He is a member of board of directors of O-Power, South Africa, investor and director of Concourse Poultry, Bosnia and Herzegovina, also founder and director of Manazil Al Reef, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I really would like to welcome you joining, and the customary question is that what do you think people would be nostalgic about in 40 years time?
Thank you for the introduction. I don't think I do have all of that. Just I cannot hear your voice very clearly when you was introducing the things, but in general what I'm thinking is the COVID, as long as I am head of CBRN, which is Chemical, Biological, Nuclear and Radiation. So I am the one who always was very negative before COVID. Everybody look at me, I am very negative because I'm talking about the risk of this CBRN. But when we got this COVID, so nobody look at me, I am negative, because I was really warning everybody that should be prepared for this point. And alhamdulillah, based on the preparations we did before COVID, Sister Hawa, maybe she can explain the thing that she made. We prepare for such type of risk before the COVID came. So we start our online training even before the COVID starting. And when COVID came, alhamdulillah, we didn't slow down, but are increasing our movement. So what I'm looking for the coming 40 years, I think the world is changing now. after COVID, it is opening the eye on whatever it should be the businesses that the people they have to concentrate on. And it is not only the field that's of the business that the people they have to concentrate on. It is even the way of operating the things, the way of looking at the things, how they have to look at it to prepare for the worst case scenario. And I have just one last point on this matter. That's before when I start, many people they ask me why I have diversity businesses, and this is like really very dangerous for entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship, that's you cannot have many businesses. You have to concentrate on one field. But alhamdulillah, when the COVID came showing us, some of our businesses slow down, some of our businesses stop totally, some of our businesses is growing. So this is like region area when there was the war, but they discovered during the Gulf War that we cannot depend totally on the oil. We should reduce our independence on the oil, like resources, and we have to have diversity. So I took this concept and I start on it. So this is one of the most important points that everybody have to think about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I also would like to warmly welcome our first lady participant of the panel, Ms. Hawa Charfaray. Sorry, I do apologize. CEO of Obix Dubai and Executive Chair, ESS Holding Africa. As a TEDx, a little on women's Howard's international presence extends to Bosnia as the director of Hadrat Global, where her focus is on localizing innovation, supply chain, and development of next generation leadership. She is also the CEO and founder of Training Excellence Africa and CEO Orbix Technical Solutions in the UAE. She is an international corporate leadership expert on human adaptability in the environment and econometric business practitioner, global speaker, and NLP practitioner. He has received numerous international global leadership awards in Dubai, Africa, and the USA for her work in developing leadership across the globe. Really warm welcome to you. So what do you think people would be nostalgic about in the next 40 years? Very short in one sentence, because we have a lot to discover here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for the introduction. And also thank you very much, Dr. Hilary, for inviting us here. So very short and very simple. I think for me, the biggest thing that in 40 years, I know what we're already missing now is human connectedness. So I think, we're really going to be nostalgic about that in 40 years. I see that slowly disappearing. Time for family, compassion, hope, trust, freedom, and of course, peace of mind. I believe that is already dissipating with the fast acceleration of technology. So human connectedness, most definitely.
Thank you, Hawa. And last but not least, Mr. Robert Bernados, who is joining us from Spain. And Robert is the wrong one. There, that's more like it. Robert is a high caliber senior international executive with more than 30 years of cross-sector experience in diplomacy, telecoms, financial services, insurance, banking, logistics, and investors' investment. Robert sits as the protocol and diplomacy consultancy and director for international business and executive training, Spain. He's also a member of the Executive Administrative Council and Director of International and Diplomatic Affairs Committee in Spain. He's also the Director and General Chancellor for Institutional, International and Diplomatic Relations and International Corporations in Italy, a partner at Gregory International Services responsible for international financial advisory, and a former National Director at IICCI OIC. He is also former senior advisor, office of the CFO, Best Swiss Bank BY, and also served as a senior project manager. Robert currently sits as an executive board member of several institutional board committees in 3 different countries, and I can assure you that his resume goes a lot further and beyond. Warm welcome to you, Robert.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all my colleagues and companions in this discussion. And if you pose to me the question, as you have, Mariette, I would
Indeed.
have to agree with Mrs. Hawa that we will miss in 40 years' time, at least some of us, if we're still around, I hope, the human connectedness. But I would even add another factor to what she has explained, which is the human spontaneity. Okay, this liberty, this freedom to improvise, to act on impulse, and also, if I may, with Mr. Ahmed Al Shemeili, I agree that we are facing very uncertain times and very dangerous times. So, because this is not a cyclical crisis, this is a complete change of paradigm. So, when I hear people say, oh, the new normal, well, I'm sorry to say that my crystal ball right now is in the repair shop and I cannot see the future. And I doubt that anybody else can actually know what that new normal is, how it will breathe, what it will eat, and what it will drink.
Absolutely, we'll definitely need a crystal ball of some sort. So before we launch into the big discussion of this evening, let's just follow up on Leaders Without Borders and the May Summit. We'll be back shortly after this. And here we are. So first, I would like to, Ahmed, first of all, address you is you are the initiator and leader of the transformational change through artificial intelligence. And the digital economy is developing at a phenomenal rate. And the single most important driver of innovation, competitiveness and growth. Now, how can artificial intelligence and disruptive technology facilitate change and transformation? How do we manage to completely overhaul models, and what sort of skills need to be prioritized and developed when it comes to efficiency?
Yeah. To address these points, first of all, we talk about artificial intelligence and involvement of the artificial intelligence in the businesses. It is very nice, shining words. However, you know, every entrepreneur, small one or big one, they have to identify exactly what they need. So artificial intelligence works itself by itself. It is very big and nice words. I totally suggest that whatever we need to do in our businesses, we have to look at our gaps. What is my problem, issue in my business to identify? So this is one of the most important parts before we will go to artificial intelligence. For us, if we will look at the business development, there is a lot of data it is existing. So the matter now it is coming, how you will rid of the human factor, which is there is a lot of gaps on like assessing the data that you do have. So you would like to have a tools to enable your team, to enable your people to work on the data. So data is available now, but the massive number of the data will not be enabled the human to handle with it in sufficient way like before and very high efficiency. So that's why artificial intelligence will come to assess and to analyze the data and give you the feedback and what you should do. Then your people, when they will receive the end information out of this artificial intelligence, then we can say, yes, you utilize the artificial intelligence in a proper way. But if I am sitting here, I say I want to implement the latest technology ever seen in the world and put it in my company to monitor my people, to do whatever, we have to look at the human factor as well. Human, it is the people who is working for this company, they are not a robot that you have to monitor every single thing. They need their own freedom. They need their own flexibility as well to work on it. Just provide them with the tools that's to empower them to do the work. Like in Apple, Steve Jobs, when he started his duty, his business in Apple, he do very good work with his team. However, when the company start, Apple company start and formed, there is a procedure, there's an instruction, there is, I don't know what is restricting the flexibility of these people. So most of those people who start the innovation of Apple, they leave. So this is one of the most important parts as well. When you are growing your business, make sure that you will not put a lot of restriction as a reason of your controlling on your company. Add restriction, yes, but keep the freedom for the people.
How do you change the mindset of people adapting to these challenges while they are kind of maintaining the authentic leadership and nurturing trust? What's happening with the mindset?
Yeah, if you are believing in what you are doing, you have to transfer your belief to your employee under you. If they don't believe on where you are going, so your team who's working with you, they are almost like lost. So the believing on the goal that you are putting, and this is the change will help us to achieve these goals. And they are really totally believing on that goal, not like as employee, they want to get their salary at the end of the month. They are coming to join your dream as a one dream of whole organization. So if you are managing to your belief to the team under you, then whatever the change or transformation change regarding toward the technology or even toward whatever else will come in future, if you don't have the goal you are believing on and can be transferred under you, then you cannot achieve anything.
Would you like to comment anything, Hawa, Robert? Would you like to comment on what Ahmed just discussed?
If I may, yes, I'm fully aligned with Ahmed in what he said, that the human factor is tremendously important, and I fully agree with the statement he said, that if the people, the employees, the actual team that form, or teams that form a company, if they are not motivated, if not, you can give them any amount of tools, any amount of technology, that you will still obtain mediocre results. We hear a lot. Ahmed started his discussion by saying that artificial intelligence is a very shiny word, and I fully agree with him. We must not fall into the trap of believing that artificial intelligence is an end to itself. It is just another tool for humans to use.
Absolutely. And how do you see a geographical differences, Ahmed, with regards to artificial intelligence and with regards to really leadership embracing it?
Today, if we will look at the businesses, it has become like as a one town. If there is any things is in, for example, in USA or here in Dubai, for example, while you are sitting in your home, you can order whatever you want to come to your home. So it is only one small town. So geographic regarding the artificial intelligence, it is not. The matter is what is your need for the artificial intelligence? What exactly your needs? It is not like fashions you want to follow every new thing is coming. So it is a matter of what exactly your need. So the geographic, not the deal, not the big deal, but it is the needs of your organization exactly. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to achieve something. whether you are working for the governments or you are working for your own private company. You want to achieve something. To achieve that thing, there is a team will help you. And this team, for them to help you in this century, you have to provide them with the tool of this century. For example, if I'm going to, like, if you are sending your army to the war, you will not give them, you will give them the new technology that they can utilize it in their war. So it will be the same. You have to prepare your team for this century with the tools of this century, required tools.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. And what's your kind of vision for the summit that's going to happen in May? What's your vision? I know there's a lot of people who are looking forward to your participations, because you are such a big representative of the region, and they really want to be acquainted of what is actually happening in the Middle East itself. What's your vision for the summit?
Just to talk openly regarding this matter, we found something we called it Hadarat. Hadarat, it's the translation of Hadarat, it is civilization. And we called it civilization. The story became behind that one. We said the Eastern civilization, when the Arab, they start at the early beginning. Then we decide why we should link it with the Arab, because civilization started even before the Arab, before the Islamic civilization. The main themes of that civilization or Hadarat is, what we need to do is, we need to go to the core value of these communities wherever we will do the business. So Hadarat city that we will start it in the Eastern Europe now, it will represent the value of the community and the culture that we need to raise. You know, today's most of the moral, it is almost disappeared. I will not care about you. I don't care about whatever is going on there. What I care is it is about myself. So we are increasing the selfishness of the community. We are increasing this culture and we distribute it among our generation. So we need to return back whatever the moral which is existing, and we are, as a human, we are almost like losing all of that because of this globalization. So what we need to do is we need to raise again the civilization by returning back the morals and ethics of each community that we are involving in. So Hadarat, we will copy Hadarat city in a different region. And in each region, we need to return back the civilization, or the civilization which is almost reaching to the extent. So we need to return it back. We need to show it to the rest of the world. There is something, it is existing somewhere, have very nice value, and based on this value, they are surviving till now. So we need to make a new system of how we can deal as a human with each other. Today, we cannot talk to each other. I am, for example, from Middle East. I'm looking at the other guy in another different view, or the other, they will look at the other one, which is in the south or east or north, and the different vision. So we don't want all of this. Now,
Yes.
the thing that the talk that we want to put it on our table is the morals which is generated through the whole civilization of the humans, from Adam alayhi salam till today. There is a lot. So we shouldn't put our morals on globalization. We need to return back the other people ethics, the other people morals. We need to put it and as a real business. That's why Hadarat, we want to make it as a success example, which we can take it all over.
Yes, yes. I'm very much looking forward to meeting you. I'm very much looking forward to listening to you at the summit. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for sharing that with us. So moving on to our next panelist, Hawa. Absolute again, I'm so delighted that you joined the panel as first lady participant. So take advantage of the opportunities and protect against threats that new digitally enabled business models present. Leaders need to commit to being bold and transformational and really ahead of those that they want to remain in their safety and their comfort zone with their traditional ways, so to speak. And leaders today, they are taking holistic and more integrated perspective of their enterprise and its complexity, focusing on transformation, response, innovation, and value. From your experience, could you share some more full insights on these with the audience, please?
Yes, please. Thank you, Marriott. And it's an honor again. I think Brother Ahmed just spoke very clearly about certain things, that I just like to touch on. One of it is the morals of civilization. And he spoke about where we return to ethics. And when it comes to transformation and digital transformation, I think a lot of us have actually forgotten, that background and that history of where we've come from and actually where we want to go. Because if you look at what transformation is, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's that process, and it's this butterfly or this moth that is now being, or caterpillar that is actually being transformed into something bigger and brighter. So from my experience, what I found is that a service and a support that we provide to a lot of our clients, both internally and externally, we encourage them to actually operate with a very clear vision. Because if you know where you're going, then that transformation becomes much more easier to be able to move forward. So some might say that, this is a change in direction or this is a strategy. And I think that's where the difference is with transformation and change. Is that if we have to help build businesses and ourselves, of course, to build a very dynamic business model, an operating model, or what we want to call a transformation map if we have to. As to how we're going to make this change. Because at the moment, many of us are just stuck with what is happening currently, or the losses we are making, the businesses we are losing, and we say we need to change. But the problem is that we don't understand the difference between change and transformation. And there is actually a very big difference between change and transformation. When we talk of transformation, we need to have a proper roadmap. And I like the fact that Brother Ahmed is into artificial intelligence a lot. And yes, I hear Robert when we say we need to put the human connectedness to it. But part of that roadmap is to include all of that. Because as much as we want to have the human connectedness, we cannot at this point in time do this on our own. We need the artificial intelligence to be able to help us through that actual roadmap as to what we want to be able to do. In terms of the whole process of a model, the transformation process, we have to look as, in context of our very own unique environment. And every organization is unique. So their process is going to be different. We might follow the same model, but the process of transformation will have to be different. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that, there's a fundamental model which is called Thrive by Rob Llewellyn. And he basically mentions the big difference is that leaders first need to recognize the fundamental difference that we talk about, which is change and transformation, as I've mentioned. But while change is required, we also need to remember that we have to, because change is required to modernize an organization, but we need to also recognize its internal capabilities of what we have and what we can do. And for every business, that's different. It's easy to say, let's change, let's transform, but we haven't analyzed what we already have before we can move on to what we actually want. And then there's other factors like taking a holistic approach. And you've mentioned that in your introduction, is organizations cannot have their departments function as silos. You can't say, okay, guys, we're going to transform and change our strategy so everybody follows the strategy. Here's the rules, here's the regulations, everybody follow through. Every division and every department is going to think about it differently because their experience, their knowledge, their skills is different in every division. And when we're doing this transformation, we have to look at the holistic approach. Otherwise, we will hit an innovation block instead of opening up the innovation and getting everybody involved in that process. So if we apply this whole process, it's thinking of innovation, it's thinking of the holistic approach. Also, if I can mention one last thing, I'm sure you have quite a few questions and we need to move on, but we also need to look at how are we actually going to respond to the process. Now, Brother Ahmed mentioned a few things earlier where he mentioned that we need to look at giving our people proper tools to be able to use. But the right tools is also important, apart from just the human connectedness, but the right tools. For example, are we just going to give them tools asking routine questions? We as the C-level SWaeed need to look at non-routine matters that are actually very complex, very unique, very dynamic. We need to ask questions that are non-routine, like, for example, how is innovation in our organization going to help my people? Are we adequately, customer focused? What is the risk if we don't change our current strategy? Get our people to give us those answers. If our workforce is ready, even for digital transformation, I don't know. Is AI going to help us give us that information? And there are tools that will be able to give us that so that we don't dabble with the day-to-day questions. We need to ask people for people data-driven. That's exactly what the artificial intelligence would be to help us in order to move this model of transformation forward so we can respond to the questions more effectively.
You mentioned about internal capabilities. Could you give an example for this? Could you elaborate a little bit on this, please?
Absolutely. So I've looked at quite a few organizations that are going through innovation, and it's the buzzword. And I think Brother Ahmed mentioned the word now quite nicely earlier, and Robert commented on it. Is that it's a very fancy word, it's a very gold word. All these words that we are using, but what we need to look at is it's easy to say, let's institute and have an innovation hub in our organization to transform the organization. But do we have the capabilities to have an innovation champion, to champion that innovation forward? Do we know how to innovate? Do we know how to get people in the organization to think outside the box, especially because they've been doing things the same way all the time? So if artificial intelligence is going to absolutely. So if artificial intelligence is going to help us, it needs to identify the skill shortages that we have in an organization. What do we train? What do we develop? And also, what is the support and the technology we can use for organizational strategy and objectives? Combine that with our people skills, combine that with what our people know best, not the technology, combine all of that, and we then will have dolphins swimming in an amazing ocean, instead of our dolphins, who are staff and great capabilities of our leaders, swimming in a swamp. Let's create an environment for them that is seamless. And I think to me that really is like your.
I'm sorry to interject. I think Robert really liked your analogy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marianne. So that's a little bit about what I would say is that we need to focus on to get people involved and to take the transformation forward.
Thank you, Hawa. And again, I'm very much looking forward to meeting you as well. And I hope this was definitely a big handful to start with, and let's see the speaking and the panel sessions to follow. And
thank you, Mary.
Let's move on to thank you again, Hawa. Let's move on to Robert, and just two short, very very short questions. We are not going to carry on with the resume. I'm so absolutely, you've got the most amazing resume I've seen of anyone's, Robert. That's off the records.
May I make a couple of comments before we get into your questions towards me, please.
Absolutely, please.
I think we'll add a little bit of value. Going back to what my dear Ahmed mentioned, in one of my activities in protocol and diplomacy consultancy, one of the factors we mostly use is the concept, and my colleagues who I hope will be seeing me and hearing me now, we use and we work with, is building bridges of understanding, okay? Which I think in these times full of pain, confusion, and uncertainty are more important than ever, okay? And then regarding to what my dear Hawa has said, I have been involved in several projects of transformation and change. And that silo mentality, oh my God, how many headaches, how many headaches. There were not enough analgesics in the pharmacy to overcome that. But I think that one of the main elements towards the success within change and transformation is also trust. And very briefly, just let me provide my vision of, at the human level, the people that are involved in change and transformation should feel with trust. Because with change and transformation, we are humans, but we have an animal element. So instinctively, when we hear change, it is going back like when our ancestors lived in caves. And at night, you know, we would look out and all we would see is black, the black unknown. Many people, when they hear change, they feel that fear of the black unknown. First, because that change, the first thing many people think is, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Okay. So going back to what I mentioned about trust, the way I define trust is that it's based on reliability, competency, integrity, vulnerability, because we're all humans. We have fear, we have doubts, we have uncertainties. Everybody, all of us. And then what we must add as well is empathy, being able to apply empathy as an element of trust in our relations, not only within the company, within the department, but in all of our communications. I think that is one of the keys going forward. Okay, those are the two comments I wanted to make.
No, it's really great. It's a fabulous interaction. Would you have a little reply back or to either Hawa or Ahmed on the reflection of Robert?
I think if I can just add something there with regards to trust, you know, something that stands out a lot in trust is that employee engagement is very much dependent on that trust. You're not going to have engaged people if that trust isn't there. And I always like to consider that you mention words like understanding and acknowledgement of what the process is. And I like to just elaborate my definition of understanding is that if I suck out all the oxygen in this room right now, I most likely will not breathe. So just like when we don't give psychological air or oxygen, it means that we are not understanding and acknowledging the people's fears, and therefore there will not be any trust. And I call that psychological air. We're sucking out their oxygen. They can't breathe when we don't give them that. So Robert, I agree 100%. No matter what tools we are implementing, no matter what we are doing for transformation, we need to first look at how do we build that trust in organizations and how to create that engagement by giving them psychological air. So 100%, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you as well. So over to you, Robert. Congratulations on your recent appointment as Director of International Affairs and Business Diplomacy of Leaders Without Borders Development Center. What's your diplomatic strategy and vision regarding the upcoming summit in May?
Well, if I may, I just wanted to clarify a little bit two building blocks that you've mentioned. Diplomatic strategy, and I would break it down into basically the diplomatic strategy is just a communication, how we structure the communication, okay? Communication, which in itself is also constructed by words. And those words both have to correspond with the reality, and I'll delve into that a little bit further, but that they are also relevant to the analysis, deliberation, and planning. Now, the other big building block within diplomatic strategy is the word strategy itself. At the end of the day, a strategy is a plan of action that is designed to achieve objectives or an outcome by means of utilizing the least or the lowest possible investment of effort, resources, and time. But from my point of view, also taking into account the potential adverse effects or consequences that strategy may have. Okay? As regards to my vision, that takes me actually to what my vision is. My vision for the event we have in Dubai is that, as I indicated before, that the communication has to take into account the reality. But there is not one reality. There are different, I don't know how many, but many different realities coexisting simultaneously. For example, the reality in Dubai or the United Arab Emirates is different from the reality in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, which in itself is different from the actual reality or current reality in Europe. And at the same time, that is different from the reality in South America. So you see my point. Right now, we can't generalize reality. We have different realities coexisting at the same time. And my vision in the main event for that we have scheduled for Dubai is to actually showcase these different realities and find common points that exist. Why? Because here, for example, we are people from different backgrounds, different geographical areas, countries, education, religious beliefs. But in my experience of 30 years in working across Africa, Europe, and Asia, I have found that we always have several points in common. We have common dreams in many cases, ambitions, we have common worries if we are parents about our children, their health, their well-being, their education, their future. And I indicate this because there are more points that unite us across these different realities than separate us. Okay? And I think the main event, my vision for the main event in Dubai, must showcase these different realities. So that will allow us to highlight the common points that exist and tailor the communication so that everybody starts a process of dialogue. Okay? And the communication, I believe, should be clear, concise, and relevant to all the parties involved. Now, I spoke about the main event, but as a consequence or as a result of the main event, in the deal room, which I will have the honor and pleasure of hosting, we can actually take those highlights from the main event as inputs into the deal room, in which we will bring in government entities, supranational institutions, major investors, but as well as companies, both established companies, small, medium enterprises from many parts of the world. And we can use those inputs, to create that common ground, to facilitate from Leaders Without Borders Development Center the creation of sustainable, and I use the word sustainable, covering all aspects of the meaning it can have, not only from an ecological point of view, but also from a community point of view, even down to the family or individual point of view, so
Indeed.
that we don't face a situation which we do deals that are bread for today, but hunger for tomorrow. Okay? Now, that is my vision in the most summarized way I could afford to put it regarding the event in May.
Thank you, Robert. And the final 3 minutes before we let Dr. Hilary to close this session. If you could reflect on entrepreneurship as diplomacy, please. The connection between job creation and entrepreneurship is not only real, but a story that is rarely told and understood between countries. And share your experience about supporting and empowering high growth and high potential entrepreneurs, and giving them tools to succeed more quickly, and with regards to job creations and creating economic stability, please. I know this is a huge topic and I only gave you 3 minutes, so
don't worry. I can be brief and concise okay. Basically, I'll try to basically provide some bullet points. One is that, in general, the markets are blinded by the high-profile names of corporations, which we all know. Okay, not only technological corporations, which we all know, and I won't mention. Okay, but if we drill down to the micro level, and I mean micro to the national level, the big name companies, not only multinationals, but also local big name companies, in many cases do not represent a major job creator. Who takes the lion's share of the creation of jobs and the maintaining of jobs? Both small and medium enterprises and startups. In general terms, we're talking that 60% of the jobs that exist and are created by startups and small and medium enterprises. In some cases, the percentage can be substantially higher. Okay? The impact this has is that the startups actually start to coalesce or to create around them a small micro ecosystem of companies that thrive on the success of the startup. And I don't mean that they are competitors. I mean that a startup, as it starts growing, will require some services. Maintenance of the offices, technical maintenance of the technical infrastructure, security, even cleaning of the offices. Okay, but let's see what the post-COVID world will look like with all this teleworking. Okay, but the main point is that a successful startup can actually create not only many direct jobs, but also many indirect jobs in the ecosystem that's around it. Let's say it another way, in the community where the startup is based. Okay, and I think that is
60 seconds.
Okay. Just to clean up my intervention, when I mention community, one of the main driving forces, not only now, but in the near and midterm future, are women. Young women that have the dream, the vision, the ambition, and the capability to drive a successful startup. Okay, and typically young girls, and I am the father of a young 19-year-old girl, are more integrated, are more aware of the needs, of the problems, and the potential solutions of the community in which they are integrated.